Welcome back to the O Hockey Show. Now, today we are talking about a team that I couldn't even care about getting dressed for in my nice suit, because this team doesn't deserve it. A poor team with such a sad city that it lives in, that people are literally running away from it to get away. That speaks for itself by itself. I don't need to go in deeper any than that. People are running away. But anyways, we are talking about the LA Kings, a team that is a former shell of itself, and I was going to make a funny joke about a man on this team, their captain, Anze Kopitar, walking zombie himself. Now, I was going to say that he was a former shell of himself, because I kind of figured 67 points was pretty poor for this guy, but after taking some further review into looking at his old history and stuff, apparently he had 66 points in his first year in the NHL, and has only gone in like the 70s a couple of times, the 80s once, and the 90s once. This guy's usually in the 60s or 50s. Not a very good career, if you ask me. Anze Kopitar, being a general watcher of hockey over the last decade at least, I've kind of thought that he was going to be a little bit more of a bigger deal than that. I mean, he's always seemed like a pretty solid guy, pretty main star of the attraction there, but apparently I was completely wrong, because 67 points is not a very high praise guy if that's what he's been doing his whole career. And yes, I know I said in my preview video that they need to get rid of him, and people were like, what are you talking about? Get rid of the guy. But, I mean, I guess if you're good with paying a guy $10 million to get 67 points, I guess you've been overpaying the guy his entire career expecting him to get better, but he's not gotten any better. But he also hasn't gotten worse. But he's also just kind of mid, so it's whatever. Next, we move on to a guy that is from the Minnesota Wild. Now, 85 points is amazing, but he's definitely not getting there with the Kings. 85 freaking points. That is pretty good. Kevin Fiala has gotten one good season, one amazing season on the Minnesota Wild, moving to LA, and his one season's better than basically 95% of all of Kopitar's career. So, 33 goals, 52 assists he's coming in with. That's pretty good. Pretty good move. I like the move for the Kings, but not for Fiala, because those points are going to go way down now. If you take a look at the rest of this team, they're all built on 50 points players, maybe 40s, a couple 30s, and like nobodies. So we got a guy, Kevin Fiala, young guy who had a bright future. He was on the Minnesota Wild. People were always singing his praises. He finally breaks out along with the rest of the Wild this year, and he moves here. I feel bad for the guy. This guy completely deserves a huge team to play for, like the Tampa Bay Lightning or even the Anaheim Ducks, a team with a bright future ahead of them. This guy deserves better, but now he's stuck with the Kings, who are going to be basically in a rut. And I know you're going to say something along the lines of, they made it to the playoffs. Well, they made it to the playoffs because they're on the worst division in the entire league. If you compare them to the team in the Central Division that finished in the same spot as they did, in third place, oh my God, that team would smoke them out of the water. They're lucked out by the fact that other teams in the same division had terrible years. The Knights were injured completely beyond belief. I mean, the Kings completely got lucked out. It's basically just this nice story of the century, whatever. Luckiest, whatever. They don't deserve it. They didn't deserve to get to the playoffs, and they got shown right at hell that the Oilers smoked them as well, so it's not like the Kings had anything going for them in the first place. Adrian Kempe we move on to, the guy that got an extension. The guy who got 35 goals, 19 assists, 54 points. 35 goals. I like that. That's pretty good, especially compared to Anze Kopitar's 19. But Adrian Kempe, I've always kind of liked this guy. I thought he could do good. 35 goals, pretty good. If he could rise up those assists and match those numbers, and that would be pretty nice to see this kid do something. But unfortunately, he plays on a team where guys don't score a lot of goals, so he's not going to be able to get a lot more assists. He has to carry this team basically by himself to score the goals, as no one's going to help him out there. And those numbers, like I said, just going to stagnate. Kind of like Fiala, 52 assists. Where do you think those came from? The rest of his team. So I don't know how he's going to get back up to those numbers. We'll have to wait and see, because it's not going to happen. Now we've got Drew Doughty, the toothless idiot. Now, the guy that looks like a caveman has been the star defenseman of this team for the past decade, and I've always thought he was completely overhyped. Drew Doughty has always been that type of defenseman that he talks a lot, he has a big mouth, it seemed pretty empty, though, because there's, no teeth there, and he's just kind of he's always been like that dumb defenseman, like the sit on your hands, like nothing flashy, not gonna get a ton of points, just kind of like the solid defenseman guy that's boring, and the only thing that's good about him is that he likes to yap at the other team. So he's done somewhat okay. 24, 31 points this year, so I guess. I mean, not the worst season for a player, especially at his age. I would have thought he would have fallen way off a cliff right now. So, kind of surprised by that. And this is where I usually add in a couple of guys that I think could maybe break out and maybe take a name for themselves. So we got a guy like Quinton Byfield, and which is probably the biggest name for the young guys. However, well, they would hope it's actually Arthur Kaliev, because Quinton Byfield has shown that he's actually a terrible prospect and was the worst one to pick out of those three. I mean, I always called Tim Stützle to be the guy that should have been drafted. I was like, he's the guy. He led Germany to wins in that World Juniors. Like, this guy's obviously a superstar. But no, they went with Quinton Byfield, and I mean, it just speaks for itself. 10 points in 40 games. This guy's 6'4". This guy shouldn't be having any problems getting to the net and crashing and scoring goals, but here he is with 10 points. Whew, that's not good. That is not good at all. Compare that to Kaliev, who had 27 points. Now, that's a guy that could rise to stardom. Quinton Byfield's the one that they decided to go with for some freaking reason. So, I don't know why. I don't understand why anyone picked him in the first place. Like, the other guys in his same draft class are doing better than him, other than Stützle. And Lafreniere, I mean, that's a whole other story. We'll get there when I get there. But Quinton Byfield, not doing very good for him. Not what Kings expect, but I guess that's what's going to happen when you go to a team that has no offensive power at all, that's going to rise your guys to that level and bring them up to a higher expectations, bring them to that ceiling, make them crash through it. But instead, he's just going to stay down here because he's got no help, and I'm not surprised. I feel bad for the guy. A guy of his size and skill should be able to do better, but he's stuck on a team that basically can't do much for itself anyways. So, if I was to give one of these people on this team a star for amazingness, or whatever the hell I usually call it, I guess I would have to give it to probably Kevin Fiala, just because he's coming from a winning team. Well, there goes my board. So, I guess Fiala is their best player going in. It's definitely not Kopitar. He's been not a best player ever. Fiala has skill. He can shoot. He can move the puck. He can do everything he wants with it, and here he is, and hopefully he can do something with this team. He's definitely not going to get back to the points that he had last year, so that's for sure. Kempe is not the type of guy that's going to really raise his game up to that level. So, and especially with Kopitar, it's probably going to decline this year, if not last year. It's all around just bad for the Kings. So I feel bad if you're rooting for them this year and starting to break the news. Spoiler alert, they're not making the playoffs, and they're never even going to come close to them because the Knights are actually healthy. The Canucks have brought in some guys, and the Ducks actually have a decent team this year. So they're nowhere going to be close to the playoffs. This team's going to further stagnate. They're going to stay at 50 points for all their players. Their guys aren't going to grow, and basically they're all around terrible and not going to get anywhere in life. So it's a poor, unfortunate story that I have to tell about the Kings, but really, it's not really that sad at all if you don't care. So, thank you for watching this. If you enjoyed watching this, I don't know how the Kings were related, so sorry. I mean, maybe if you're looking at this, but I wouldn't blame you the entire time you look at this. So, thank you for watching. If you liked it, please hit that red subscribe button by hitting the red subscribe button. Don't know why I have to clarify that. I mean, Kings fans might need some clarification. It's the one that says subscribe. You might not be able to pronounce it, but you could just see it's the red one. That's why you specify the redness, the rojo of it. That's right. That's Spanish for red. You move on from that. Leave a like. That's the thumbs up button, not the one that's down, just for those kindergartners out there. And other than that, tell me down below how wrong I am. I know. You probably think Kopitar's still the best, even though he's not. It's unfortunate that Brown's gone. I liked Dustin Brown. Not really. So, thank you for watching this. Tell me all that down below. Until next time, I have been your not nicely dressed host for this video because I couldn't care. And until next time, too sweet to everybody that's not a Kings fan, and ta-ta for now.